Hello and welcome. On behalf of ISMETA, the International Somatic Movement Education and Therapy Association, I welcome you all with the rest of the operations team and board of directors. I am delighted to host today Gabriel Posner. He will share with us his recently published book, Somatic Techniques for Massage Therapists. Gabriel is the current president of the Association for HANA Somatic Education's board of directors and is funded by the association as a research director. In addition, Gabriel trains clinical practitioners and movement teachers with Martha Peterson and Essential Somatics. He also operates a private practice in Denver, Colorado, offering hands-on clinical somatic sessions, group classes, and trainings for both somatic practitioners and massage therapists. His first book, Somatic Techniques for Massage Therapists, was released by Handspring Publishing earlier this year. After becoming certified as a massage therapist in 2004, Gabriel developed chronic musculoskeletal pain. His journey to resolve his own issues led him down a path of integrative health exploration, ultimately finding relief with HANA Somatics. Gabriel became a certified HANA Somatic educator in 2008 and has been practicing ever since, helping others unravel their own musculoskeletal issues. A desire to better understand and promote the science underlying somatic practices led him to get his doctorate in mind-body medicine, which he completed in 2022. While Gabriel enjoys working one-on-one with clients, he is at his best when working with and training other somatic practitioners. Gabriel, thank you so very much for being here with us. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Elizabeth. Thank you to the rest of his meta and for putting this on. Thank you all for being here. It's great to see so many faces. Great to see some group gatherings on the Zooms too. I love it. So I hope you enjoy this hour we have together, and I'm excited to share this book with you. Um, I'll just jump right into it. So my purpose today is I want to give you an overview of this book and explain why I chose the topic that I did, and which is it says for massage therapists, but really I think about this more broadly as for like touch professionals, people who use touch in a therapeutic way. Anybody who's working with their clients using touch, I think, can benefit from this book in many ways, and people who are disinterested too. So we're going to talk about like how somatics and and massage might be seen not as two separate fields, but really as one singular field. And that is the gap that this book is attempting to bridge. And that is really like my life's work, the career that I've been putting together for the last number of years, listening to Elizabeth go through my bio. It's like, yeah, this and then this and then this and then this. It kind of all feels like everything flowed perfectly up to this moment, even though of course there are many moments of ambiguity. So I'll also share a little bit about how the book came about. And then I want you to have some experiences, because this work might make sense intellectually, but many things make sense intellectually, right? Many things make sense on paper. And really, where somatic work, I think, shines is in the actual experiencing of it. And so I want to make sure that you leave here not just with the ideas that I'm trying to convey, but also with some direct experience. And then we can talk about where to get the book, and we can answer any questions and answers. We can answer any questions that you have. So let's see. Let's just start with an overview. Where did this book come from? You might be curious to know how it is that I got to write a book. and it does feel like an incredible privilege to get to write a book. I had an inkling a while ago that I probably would write a book at some point. Of course, when you go to grad school, you learn how to write a lot and a lot and a lot and just keep on writing. So getting through my dissertation, I had a sense that I could probably write a book at some point. But I had this course. I had this course that I developed a long time ago, back in the teens, the 20 teens, after I was done teaching at the National Holistic Institute in California. And someone through NHI connected me with someone at Massage Envy in the area, and they wanted to offer some continuing education to their massage therapists. And I raised my hand and I met with them and I suggested teaching massage therapists how to incorporate somatic techniques because that is what I'd been doing for first 10 years of my career. I had gotten into massage therapy and then I had found somatic work as a way to keep myself being able to do massage therapy and found that it was also very effective for my clients. And for a long time was sort of practicing in two tracks. People would come in for massage, people would come in for somatic work. I would slowly try to figure out ways to invite one to experience the other and vice versa. But it wasn't really until it wasn't until I got a job teaching at massage school that I learned how to actually speak to massage therapists and speak to the people interested in massage about somatic work because I had to learn how this fits in with the larger field of massage therapy. And I actually had my hiring manager, the director of the campus I was working at. I told her, I said, I'm nervous. I'm nervous because I had to learn this work to help me figure out how to not burn out as a massage therapist. And I'm nervous that some of the things that I've learned might not be fully aligned with your curriculum. And she was such a great manager. And she said, you know what? Like, don't anything that you're finding in our curriculum that doesn't mesh with what you've learned and what you're doing, like talk to me or just don't do it. Like tell the students your experience. And so I was all prepared to do that. And I ended up teaching every single hour of a 720-hour massage program and realizing I didn't actually need to change anything in their curriculum. There's nothing like fundamental about the way that massage is taught or done that is antithetical to somatic practice, which was what a relief and also really cool and kind of gave me the green light to bring this more together with what I'd been doing separately. So I offered this course to Massage Envy. It went really well. And then I moved to Colorado and forgot all about it. And then post-pandemic, a colleague reached out and said, hey, can you come out to the California AMTA chapter and present about somatics? So I dusted off this course. I added some things to it. And by the end of that weekend, I was like, oh, there's a real need for this. There's a real desire for this in the massage community. And through his meta, actually, I was put in contact with our publisher, Handspring and Singing Dragon Publishing. And at that point, I didn't know what book I might want to write, but I knew that book would come eventually. And so after that AMTA meeting, I reached out to the editor I'd been put in touch with at Handspring and said, here's what I'm thinking about doing. And they loved it. And so I spent 2 years writing it, well, 1 year writing it, 1 year editing and publishing it. And it came out in January, and it just feels so perfectly timed because when I when I sent them the pitch, I was like, nobody's really talking about somatics in the massage field. You can see that mental health is embracing it, the dance community is embracing it, and I think that the massage community is going to be the next one to really embrace somatics. And here we are in 2026, and sure enough, I go into these massage boards, and people are already talking about somatics and are loving it, and it's so great, it's so affirming to me that there's that response. So yeah, and I see some people dancing back there. So yes, celebrating that with you for you, for us, for the health and wellness industry at large. So the main idea of this book is, well, it might just be useful just to read a little bit from it. I could read the first page or so and give you a sense of my language as well as what the idea of it is. And here it is, by the way, physical copy. So chapter 1 is called Get in Your Car and Drive It. And it starts like this. Massage therapy is at the cusp of a major innovation. For millennia, massage therapy has passed in different forms from teacher to student, one generation to the next, all around the globe. If you work in this field, you are engaged in an ancient form of healthcare through physical contact between two people. Touch has enormous power to promote healing and restore homeostatic balance while decreasing stress and tension. But if you have massaged someone with a chronic musculoskeletal issue, you likely have also experienced the limitations of massage therapy. You know how challenging it is for some people to relax, and you know that a stiff neck may respond to massage techniques but will quickly tighten back up. You have struggled to find the right angle, amount of pressure, or technique that will unlock someone's muscles and keep them unlocked. The limitations of massage therapy are not limits of technique, but are instead limitations of intention. This is because typically the intention when utilizing a massage therapy technique is to use external force to create an internal change within another person, such as circulation, muscle tone, energy flow, joint mobility, or lymphatic drainage. Sometimes change happens quickly. Other times it can feel like trying to push a car down the road with the parking brake on. Without trying to, your client resists your efforts. You ask them to relax and they simply cannot. Until that parking brake is disengaged, a car will be immovable. And until your client is able to let you help them, your techniques will be futile. The innovation of the massage field will not be a major shift in technique. Instead, this will mostly occur as a shift in intention. To carry on with the car analogy, if you practice what I offer in this book, it might feel similar to the first experience driving a vehicle, a surge of excitement that comes from turning the key and feeling how much power can come from so little effort. Instead of applying more pressure to coax a muscle to relax, you will be working with someone's mind and nervous system to help your client reestablish a fully conscious connection with their own body and unlock incredible powers of self-regulation. As they establish body-mind connection, your clients will be able to relax their own muscles, release their own joints while encouraging energy, blood, and lymph circulation. You'll learn to work as a team with your client, and then in the end, you will hand over the keys so that they can drive their own car. And essentially, this book is all the theory and techniques that you need to apply somatic techniques to your massage sessions, convert your massage therapy techniques you're already doing into somatic techniques, and then also goes through I call it somatic training, the things you need to do to become more adept at guiding your clients through a deep transformation, a deep journey into their own internal experience. So there's a lot in there. And I'm going to go over some of the main concepts of it to understand what differentiates it from other massage books as well as from other somatic books. And like I said, this is for really anybody, somatic practitioners, massage therapists, nurses, PTs, personal trainers, chiropractors, anybody you know who is applying touch in a therapeutic way, I think can gain a ton from this book. But that's just my personal opinion. Check it out. Let me know what you think. I'm going to share my slides now. Do have a little presentation here. Can you all see that? Okay. Continue to share. Okay. So this is what we got through. And yeah, spoiler, how can you get a copy? You can get a copy pretty much any place that you can get a book. Nice thing about working with Handspring is that they are a major publisher. And if you've got a local bookstore on your corner, they can order it for you. Or you can get it through the Ismena website. You can get it through Barnes & Noble, through Amazon, through my website too. So why massage therapists? First off, well, as I said, I've seen that mental health counselors have thoroughly embraced somatics. Back in 2022, I think it was, the New York Times had this headline article on their magazine and said, somatics is surging. It was all about the ways that mental health has embraced the work of like Peter Levine, like EMDR, somatic experiencing, and really just seeing how useful the somatic perspective is for the mental health field, the psychological field. The dance field also has thoroughly embraced somatics. In fact, many of the graduate programs in somatics are in dance and movement schools. The yoga field is starting to return to somatics. And I worded that very specifically because yoga doesn't have to become somatic. Yoga already was somatic. Yoga is probably our most ancient, along with Tai Chi, Qigong, our most ancient of somatic practices. And I think it is returning to it because let's be real, a lot of the way that yoga is done in the West is with a Western flavor. There's a biomedical flavor, and it is kind of like physical education more than mind body integration. So I love that there's so much of this returning to like yoga therapy and gentler yoga, somatic yoga practices, all of these things. I love that. And I truly believe that massage is the next industry and is perfectly placed to do this. Why? Because massage therapists are licensed to touch. We're one of like the handful of professions where people are actually licensed and sanctioned to touch another person. And that is such an amazing opportunity. That means that they're already working through the body. I don't even like the word to use the body, through the soma. They're already integrating at a subcognitive level, an unconscious level, and therefore are perfectly positioned to embrace the somatic perspective and somatic philosophy. And often I find that many massage therapists, if you've been practicing for 3 or 5 or longer years, you probably already are working somatically. You probably have already figured things out because otherwise you would have burnt out a long time ago. You wouldn't have enjoyed the work, you wouldn't have found it very successful, and you wouldn't be feeling great. So I found that to be true, that the massage therapists that have been doing this for a while are sort of already doing this and just finding the language that I offer, as well as the hands-on clinical techniques, useful as add-ins for what they're already doing. And I've been training somatic practitioners with essential somatics, doing my own personal trainings, and it kind of feels like when I'm there, I've got my like sign up, and I'm like, good, come and find me. And honestly, there are thousands of people that can pick this work up really quickly, and so I decided to go out and meet them where they are. And I'm really enjoying that. I'm actually presenting at the National Convention of the American Massage Therapy Association in 2 weeks. First time presenting at a national convention, and I'm just so excited to get back to where I started as a wellness practitioner and to share this with people in that community. So yeah, this question of isn't massage already somatic? And I would say probably, some of the Eastern forms, some of the indigenous forms of massage are already somatic. But the way that Western massage techniques have developed is within the Western biomedical paradigm. And I specifically go into what does that mean for science in this book? What is the biomedical paradigm versus the somatic paradigm? It is a perspective. It is a choice. It is a choice to see people as bodies and minds. It is a choice to be reductionistic and objective, right? It is a choice to consider the results as biomedical results, organ specific results, such as improving circulation, reducing fascial adhesions, moving lymph, stretching muscles. Those are all results that you would expect to get from a biomedical framework of massage. And and that's fine. And the science is even showing that yes, there are incredible benefits to massage therapy. There are benefits to cardiac health and benefits to posture, to muscle tone, to lymph. In fact, manual lymph drainage is like really taking off in the massage field. And there is some benefit to muscle tone. But what the biomedical model misses is the somatic perspective, the first person perspective of the client. Because too much it leads to therapists thinking about working on a muscle, when in reality is we never actually touch a muscle. Surgeons touch muscle, EMTs and like traffic incidents touch muscles in like trauma centers, but no massage therapist has ever actually touched somebody's muscle. And therefore, we are always engaging on the outside of a person and attempting to affect something that is inside of them. Therefore, we are always trying to induce an internal change in a person. And the biomedical perspective tells us to think about that in terms of muscle, tissue, bone, joint. And I think what's missing is the first person experience of the client. Because if we're staying in the biomedical, then we think about having to do, having to fix. It puts the onus on the therapist as being in the implement of change. When in reality, in reality, our clients are the ones that have to change because somas are inherently self-healing and self-regulating. That is what we do as somas. That is one of our birthrights. So, how can massage become more somatic? Well, the somatic perspective, and I take my language from Thomas Hanna, who coined the term back in the 70s and developed the work, this particular kind of somatic work that I do. And what he said, quite simply, is that the somatic perspective is the first person experience of self. We don't think of ourselves as muscle, tissue, latissimus dorsi, joints, fascia. We experience ourselves always as whole. We are integrated, we are living, we are conscious, sensing, moving, responding people. And therefore, when you switch to that, when you switch to recognizing that your client is not a body with muscles, but just recognizing that they are a soma and that they have a first person experience, everything changes because the intention no longer is on how can I fix something here, but becomes how can I create a change here pervasively. And we do that through enhancing the client's awareness, right? We can't regulate what we can't feel. We can't change or regulate what we can't feel. And therefore, I think the most benefit that massage provides is in improving awareness. Touch draws attention. Touch is a flashlight in our client's awareness and in their mind, and it brings them into themselves in a different way. The image I have here is of Alice going through the looking glass. This was a metaphor that Thomas Hanna used a lot to describe the process of shifting from third person biomedical perspective to the first or second person, meaning soma to soma, somatic perspective. We have to go through the looking glass to see things in a different way, to experiencing things different in a different way. We do that for ourselves. The way that we interact with our clients changes immediately. And when we do that with our clients, their experience of themselves changes and the client unwinds. And something that occurs to me, and that I've actually have said in massage therapist groups, like I've said it like this, but has anybody ever actually released somebody else's muscle? And I don't think that we have. I don't think that, and I'm not saying that massage does not lead to muscle relaxation. I just don't think it happens the way we think it happens. I don't think it's the actual work of the massage therapist that is making that muscle relax. And I would say that the studies in this are kind of confirming that, meaning the amount of force required to change fascia is more than the typical massage would ever generate. You would have to apply a couple 100 pounds of force in that area to make the fascia change, and you'd probably end up injuring the person in the process. Muscles are under the control of the nervous system. Simple statement. I think Feldenkrais would call this the elusive obvious, right? This is what he titled one of his books. Now, what I take away from that is that it's so simple, it's so right in front of us that it seems too simple to be accurate. But Everybody who's gone through even the most basic physiology program has learned that skeletal muscles are voluntary muscles. So then, why is it that someone needs to go to a massage therapist to make their muscle relax? The massage isn't going to make their muscle relax. The massage is going to help them regain the ability to do what they should be able to innately do, which is fully control their own muscles. Because what they're really saying is, I have lost the voluntary control of my muscles. Whether they know it or not, that's actually what they're saying. I have lost the ability to relax my trapezius. I have lost the ability to relax my back or my hips. And it's not their fault, but it is a human function to lose the ability to move and to relax muscles that we should or could or theoretically will have full voluntary control over, right? Pressure alone cannot change tone. Otherwise, the next time you spend, 8 hours sitting at your desk, you would expect to stand up and your hamstrings would be like pudding. But has that ever happened? I don't think so. In fact, I see lots of people who spend 8 hours a week at their desk or a day at their desk, and they come in very tight, very, very tight. So it's not the pressure that's doing it. Force in this way, when we shift to thinking about somas and we recognize that the pressure is not important, what's important is the sensitivity. And when awareness meets touch, meaning when you put contact with somebody and they meet that contact from the inside, something magical happens. A change occurs. It's not the pressure itself, in my opinion. It's not the pressure itself. It is the engagement with your consciousness and their consciousness meeting in that physical moment. That's when change happens. And it's pretty incredible. So I'd like to offer you a simple experience of this. One of the things, Thomas, and I've touched on it a little bit, is this idea of lack of motor control or reduced motor control, meaning what happens when someone can't do this? Well, Thomas called it sensory motor amnesia. When we get into patterns of how we hold ourselves, how we present, how we move, they become less and less consciously controlled, more and more unconscious. And then that unconsciousness creates a neuroplastic change in the sensory and motor cortex, whereby a person can't feel actually how tight they are. They might feel pain in different places that will lead them to somebody's office, but they're not feeling the full picture of what's going on. So the touch and the techniques that I offer in this book are designed to reverse that by restoring awareness and restoring full voluntary control. For example, if you were to take your forearm, I invite you to palpate your forearm. And what you're going to find is on the top part of your forearm, you're probably going to find some ropey muscles here. Little cables. These are your extensors of your wrist and fingers. Now, what I want you to do, it's easy to go in there and feel the places that are sore. And I'm sure you can find a sore spot pretty quickly. But can you find an area of your extensor muscles where it's ropey, meaning you can sense that the muscle is tight, but you don't perceive it as actually being sore or achy? Interesting thing, right? You would expect a sore, tight, chronically tight muscle to be a little bit sore because it's in a state of constant effort. And yet, you will find in your forearm and in your traps and in your back and other places muscles that are tight and ropey, but are not actually sore. And all you have to do is apply gentle pressure, but steady pressure. And your pressure is a call. It's an invitation to your consciousness and say, hey, feel this. And after 30 seconds to a minute, you might sense a shift. In fact, I think you will likely sense a shift where all of a sudden you don't feel, oh, it's just tight, but you think, oh, I can sense it's tight. And if I keep going, oh, actually, I can sense it's kind of sore and achy. And in that moment of shifting from just being tight to actually being sore and achy, you actually relaxed it a bit. And if you take your hand away, you might sense a little shift in how your forearm changes just from doing that. In fact, I'm going to stop share for a moment. I'm just curious to see if anybody wants to share what they noticed with that. Did anybody feel a shift? Did you feel what I was describing? Anybody like to share how that was for them? Yeah, I see a bunch of hands. Great. Yeah. Go ahead and take your if you're comfortable being on the recording, go ahead and share what you experienced there. Mary Lou?
Hi.
Awesome.
Hi,
Hi.
everybody. I was aware as I became more aware that my arm just wanted to do some unwinding by itself. So it began in just this movement, had a bit of a twist, and then crossed the body twist. So definitely a shift across different
Nice.
planes.
So not only did you feel it kind of like the sensory experience of it shift, but then there was an invitation. It was like, no, I want to move. I want to unwind and unravel this. Does that sound right? Yeah. Nice. And we were surprised. I'm curious if we were surprised when something went from just being tight to being a little bit sore. Yeah. So this is what, I called my first presentation when I went to teach at massage school. I called it "Don't Shoot the Messenger." And you probably have experienced this when you've gotten massages, that you went in there thinking that you had one little area of tension and you left me like, oh, wow, my whole back is incredibly sore and tight and tired. And you may actually have become even more sore later on in the day or the next day. And unless your therapist went in with an elbow like this, it's not that the massage made you more sore, but it helped you to sense soreness that was already present. And it helped you to do that in the shifting and in the unwinding that occurred during the session. So that is a repeatable, predictable thing that will happen when we switch from being amnesiac to our attention to aware of our attention. As it reduces, the awareness of the effort involved in maintaining it actually amplifies. Cool. Thank you, Mary Lou, for sharing that with us. And thank you all for trying that out. Okay, so let me continue. Okay, so the question is then, how can massage somatics be incorporated into massage? Now, these are somatic terms. Well, actually, those of you that are familiar with Alexander might be familiar with the first term here, the means whereby. This was a term that Hannah borrowed from Felden Grace and a concept, sorry, from Alexander, and a concept that he borrowed from Alexander, which is that instead of focusing on the range of motion, how far can we move the joint? Can we stretch it? Instead of thinking about, I guess what Alexander would call the end game of the movement, we focus on the zones of movement in between, the ranges of movement in between, especially someone in chronic pain. If we just go in and start pulling and yanking, it's just going to reinforce bracing that's already present in response to their pain. But if instead we go in with really gentle movement and explore where they can move freely, explore where they get stuck, invite them to relax more, and help them experience that even when they're in pain, there are still some zones of movement that are not painful. And the more that somebody can start to experience, oh, movement isn't always painful, movement is actually comfortable, movement feels good, the more they will actually unwind. And all of a sudden, that range of motion will improve without trying to make it improve. Kinetic mirroring, this is another phrase borrowed, or at least a concept borrowed. Thomas Hanna studied with Moshe Feldenkrais. Many of you may know that, some of you may not. He actually produced the first American Feldenkrais training in San Francisco, and he took it. He was a member of it, and he practiced for a long time as a Feldenkrais practitioner before developing the clinical somatic work that we call HANA somatics. But one of the concepts from it, and I've heard Yokana and Rairawant call this the effort substitution, which is instead of finding a tight area and trying to force it not to be tight, we find a tight area and we go into it. And we say, oh, this is tight for a reason. This person is bracing, tilted, arched, whatever for a reason. And they're not just going to simply stop doing it because they have a vested interest in maintaining this for some reason. Doesn't actually matter why, unless they're still in acute injury. But usually it's because of some stress pattern, some behavioral pattern, or some injury that led to them needing to do this a lot until they're stuck doing this, or bracing until they're stuck bracing, even if the injury is no longer there. And so we just give the nervous system a break. We give their muscles a break by bringing them into their pattern, softening that response so that then they can relax a bit, then they can soften a bit, and then you can get into their muscles, into their physiology more easily. And then voluntary pendiculation is a term that Hannah created for the most active of the techniques that we do. It's similar to PNF. People may be familiar with PNF, proprioceptive neuromuscular facilitation. This is a massage technique that's employed to improve range of motion. That involves finding a stretch, adding resistance in the other direction, and then relaxing into a new stretch and holding it. And can be quite temporarily effective for changing range of motion. Well, pandiculations are modeled after the stretch yawn response that all organisms do when they're moving from a period of rest to a period of activity, or from a period of activity to a period of rest. If you have a pet, dog, cat, bird, squirrel in your house, you will see them go through pandiculations all throughout the day. And truly, they will do it anytime they're going from rest to activity, activity to rest. Pandiculations are yawns. A yawn is a pandiculation. It's full body, opening and relaxing, building up of tension and releasing, resetting tension. Hannah employs pendiculation in this work. I employ pendiculations in my work voluntarily, meaning instead of just letting them be something that we do and just kind of feel our way through, we actually have specific ways that we guide this to enter into the stuck pattern, to bring someone into awareness of what they're doing at an unconscious level, so it's no longer unconscious. So they're aware of that it's something they are doing that's leading to the thing that brought them in your office, and then gradually reducing, gradually softening and relaxing out of it. And this can be employed within the middle of a massage session, in those moments where you're working through their torso, things are going really well, and then you hit on an area that feels just like concrete, that feels just totally locked up and stuck. And instead of leaning in, applying more pressure, instead of taking a deep breath and just waiting for your client to let go, we invite them at varying and increasing levels of activity to meet us from the inside, to unwind themselves so that they can allow the massage techniques to do their work. And it's such a cool thing. And over time, our clients can become more interested in somatic work, which may mean to them doing more of the active thing and you using less of your physical effort to achieve the results that you're looking for. Over time, the clients will come in for all the other benefits of massage besides addressing musculoskeletal tension too, because the benefits are enormous. The benefits of Swedish massage are often more powerful than myofascial work or deep tissue work. The systemic effects of gentle therapeutic touch are immense. And I believe the things that we identify in these studies are only touching on one aspect of it. People change at all levels. And one of the things I said to my students the other day is, while our scope of practice might be constrained to touch and movement, our scope of benefits is not constrained. People change in every way, shape, or form. And when you talk to the clients, you notice things like, yeah, they respond to their life events differently. Their digestion is different. Their mood is different. Their sleep is different. It is way more than just posture, muscles, circulation. This is somatic work. Anything that we do as an intervention is somatic work. Why? Because we're always working with somas. And the more that we recognize that, the more powerful the work becomes and the deeper the benefits go. So there's a core aspect of this, which is, and this is taken from a Gil Hedley term, a somonaut. Somonaut is to the inner space what an astronaut is to outer space. So I devote a chapter in my book, and much of the training that I've just launched for practitioners is for basically somonaut training, right? How is it that Katy Perry was able to go to space with like 2-day training? Because people have devoted their careers to understanding what would happen up in space, to knowing how to navigate when something goes wrong, to make sure that they're fully competent in having passengers on that journey with them. Well, I liken us as wellness practitioners to those astronauts. We're somonauts. We need to be fully equipped to guide someone through a transformation because we've been there ourselves. We've done the work. We know how to hold space. We know the difference between awareness, attention, and perception. We can shift our attention outside and inside, right? So we have control over our attentional capacity, control over our perceptual capacity. What I mean is when a client comes in and they're having a horrible day, you don't automatically perceive that you're having a horrible day, right? The ability to discern and differentiate your experience from your client's experience. And then you become a supportive guide for bringing them more into where they are going to go, rather than them sweeping you off your feet and drawing you into what they're coming in with. And also a technical expert in somas, right? We got to know our anatomy, kinesiology, but it's only important to understand what underlies our functioning as humans, as somas. So we become navigators of healing and personal growth. So I'd love to do some practice with you guys. I'd love to share a few of the exercises. There are a bunch of these exercises available through, Thomas Hanna's books. Martha Peterson's book has some of the core clinical somatic techniques in them. So I didn't want to just redo that for this book. I created some specific pendiculations for practitioners that I invite you to do with me now. You can do these seated. And I want you to get comfortable. I want you to find a comfortable position. And only you know what that is. And don't lie to yourself. If you're not comfortable, shift, change, get a pillow, stand up, lie down. You can do this in any organization with gravity, but I would demonstrate it upright. So, for example, bring your hands together in front of you. Simple exploration here. Your palms stay glued together. And what I want you to do is just really easily bring your elbows up and bring your elbows down. Like you're a bird that's been sleeping for 200 years. And you wake up and these are your wings. And you just want to slowly explore them. When you meet resistance, when you feel like you're starting to stretch, go the other direction. I do not want you to effort your way through this. And I want you to move slowly and gently. And why? Because when you move slowly and gently, you engage your cortex, where learning occurs, where adaptation occurs. So the slower you go, the gentler you go, the more likely it is that you will activate, turn on your cortex, and change will happen more quickly. Now, and when you do that, you're going to start to feel that as you move slowly, the movement actually becomes more choppy. But also you might become aware of muscles working as you do this. And you might become aware of other parts of you than just your elbows wanting to move. For example, I can feel my shoulder blades start to move up and then down. And then before I know it, my elbows are actually coming together. this may or may not happen for you. Don't force it. But just to point out what might happen is that the range of movement actually just kind of opens up. And the only reason that will occur is if your shoulder blades have started to make their way around your rib cage. And if you feel your spine wants to start to flex as your elbows come in and wants to arch and extend as your elbows come out, well, that would be a very functional connection from your hands and elbows into your somatic center. And if so, go ahead and let your spine flex as your elbows come in. Let your spine arch. My legs are opening up too. As I arch, my legs are coming in. So it becomes a whole body, a whole soma pattern. Isn't that cool? And if you're not feeling like this wants to integrate into your shoulders and back, then ask yourself, what are you bracing, right? Because in reality, every movement you do is a whole integrated movement. And if it's not happening, that means very likely that you are not allowing it to happen. So I want you to invite this opening as your elbows come out. And I want you to invite this flexing and sinking as your elbows come in. And then just come back to rest and hang out at neutral for a moment. So there's step one. And if you feel the desire to wiggle around a little bit and to move, don't resist that. Step two, bring your hands back in front of you again. Shake them out if they're getting a little bit tired. But now you're going to have one hand on top of the other. I'm going to turn my camera down slightly. And what I want you to do now is like you're turning a giant key. And if you look at your hands, move them so slowly that you can perceive the choppiness in the movement. Attempt to make it smoother. It's an attempt. When you're going slowly, it will not be smooth, I promise you. So you're just going to attempt to make it smoother. And then allow whatever else wants to move. Meaning when you roll your arms one way, one shoulder will lift, the other shoulder will sink down. And as you go the other direction, everything switches. One shoulder elevates, one shoulder depresses. And not only that, but if you keep on turning the arms, letting the shoulders move, well, you may find your whole spine wants to bend. And you may feel that your pelvis actually will start to rock onto one side. So as your head goes to the right, your pelvis will rock onto the left side. And if that's not happening, invite it. Invite that to happen and see what changes for you. As your head goes to the left, your pelvis will rock onto the right side. And before you know it, you're going to find you have incredible range of motion in your hands and wrists, because it's not just your hands and wrists moving. It's your shoulders, it's your ribs, it's your spine, it's your hips. It's all of you. It's all of you forever and ever and ever. And then you come back to rest. And then the last thing we're going to do is we're going to do pendiculation of the arm. So these are sort of like means whereby explorations, I would say. And then we're going to do pendiculations of the arms. So left arm first. I want you to bring your left arm out to your side. A comfortable amount. If it starts to hurt, you just let it go back down. And then just slowly lower it down. And as you lower it down, notice what you're letting go. Notice how even with one or two repetitions, you might find that that shoulder is actually lower than the other shoulder. This is the pendiculation. You go into the movement, you build a pattern of contraction until it gets louder and louder. If it's comfortable, you can bring your arm up above shoulder line. You can even reach it up to the ceiling. And as you reach up to the ceiling, you end up reaching down through your hip and over the top, and then reverse that. Slowly reverse this. You're using gravity to help you to inhibit the contraction. Less and less, do less, do less. Let your arm slowly soften, slowly melt. You might feel some tingling in your wrist, all the way down to the side. And then before we do this with the other arm, consider if you notice a difference between the arm we just worked with and the other arm. It doesn't take much. It doesn't take 20 reps. When you get your conscious mind involved, change happens like that. Let's do the other side now. Your arm out to the side. And again, the first time you may only come up to like shoulder height. Soften and relax. I designed these to be movements that a practitioner could do, right before they start their day or in between clients. Second time, you might bring it all the way up. But of course, these are also things that you might teach your clients. As you reach up, you're simultaneously reaching down through that hip. So you might feel your other side shorten, right? The lengthening here comes from an engagement, tightening in the shorter side. And as your arm starts to come out and then down, there's a softening in your opposite waist, and there's a softening, there's a releasing in that shoulder. Slow, slow, slow. The slow release is where the magic happens. That is where you are actively controlling and inhibiting. So we believe, this is why we think this happens. You're inhibiting the alpha gamma motor neurons. You're inhibiting the spindle cells so the muscle can become longer. I've got a lot of physiology in the book as well, in an approachable way, I believe. And then notice what it's like to be you right now. And does it feel different being you than it did 10 minutes ago? So simple things that you can do. And when you do them regularly, you'll start to be even better. So what's in it for you? Well, if you're a massage therapist, food for thought, historical, philosophical context for contemporary massage, approachable neuroscience, the neurophysiology of touch and movement, ways to unlock your client's powers of healing and self-regulation, techniques that can be integrated within your sessions, different points of emphasis to modify what you're already doing, and concrete practical skills for developing your sensitivity and becoming more effective practitioners. So much. There's a lot in this. And I thought I had a slide for somatic educator. If you're a somatic educator, let me just say this because I don't see that slide there. I think you're going to get value in thinking about how to apply techniques a little bit differently. You get value in thinking about like where that contrast is between you and a massage therapist. You're going to get value in thinking about how you can use your hands even more effectively in a session to locate and address specific areas of stuckness, or what we would call sensory motor amnesia. How do they show up in your sessions? And what do you do, no matter what form of somatic work you are coming from? I believe that these techniques can be applied quite effectively. And then where can you get the book? Well, like I said, all booksellers. I'm selling signed copies directly from my website. I'll mail them to you. If you're in the US, I can't mail them to Canada. The shipping costs more than the book itself. But I can mail them to anybody in the US. And also, if you are outside of the US, or you're in the US but want to get them through Ismeta's got a great bookstore with all Handspring Singing Dragon books at a discount for members. And like we said, any place that books are sold, they have these. So if you like what I'm doing, if you like my style, personality, if you want to consider engaging, talking, meeting up for a virtual coffee chat, or are considering going deeper into this as a practitioner, I offer trainings, events, I offer one-on-one sessions. You can follow me on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube under elevated_somatics. And you can also just email me directly. I'm actually launching a 5-month practitioner program. We have a hybrid program, meaning a couple hours every week for 5 months. And email me for that because I'm offering a free 2-day, 90 minutes a day intensive in September. I'm calling the Pain-Free Practice Intensive for what I'm describing for massage therapists, other touch professionals, and somatic educators. So if you're curious about that or want to just connect in general, then let's do it. Okay. We've got a few minutes. I'd love to answer any questions that you have, and I'm going to stop the share. So if you want to ask a question, you can hit the react thing, and maybe we could turn off the recording in case people are uncomfortable having their questions on the recording because the presentation is done now.
Sure. I would just like to say thank you, thank you, thank you before we end the recording for today. Yeah, such
You're
valuable
welcome.
information, groundbreaking, innovative, pioneering. Thank you for your work, Gabriel.
Thank you for yours. Thanks for setting this up.